The Exodus. During the night, Pharaoh summoned Moses and Aaron and said, "Up, leave my people, you and the Israelites. Go worship the Lord as you have requested. Take your flocks and herds as you have said and go, and also bless me." So at this point, this was the breaking point. This was finally the breaking point for Pharaoh and the Egyptians to understand who they were dealing with. They were not just dealing with some false, frivolous, man-made thing. They were dealing with the living God. So this was the breaking point after this plague. And this was the deliverance for the Egyptian, or for the Israel. And so this tells us that there may be hard times coming. If you're going through something, it may get even more difficult. But at the end of it, there's always light. There's always light at the end of the tunnel, as some people would say. And so, what does this tell you? How do you feel about this? Having to see all of everything, all of God's marvelous wonders, all the way to this point of the Israelites finally, after asking, after all of these plagues, finally being able to leave their slavery. And after all of what has happened, the Pharaoh asked for God's blessing. He asked Moses, "Also bless me." I believe at this time he was just completely fearful. He was just he was beyond his knowledge. He was beyond his breaking point, and so he was fearful. He humbled himself, and this was an actual humbling. The Egyptians urged the people to hurry and leave the country, for otherwise, they said, "we will all die." So the people took their dough before the yeast was added and carried it on their shoulders in kneading troughs wrapped in clothing. The Israelites did as Moses instructed and asked the Egyptians for articles of silver and gold and for clothing. The Lord had made the Egyptians favorably disposed toward the people, and they gave them what they asked for. So they plundered the Egyptians. That's amazing. Being in slavery this whole time, and then finally, because from the oppressors, you're getting payment back. And that payment is not only past due, but it shows that God provides. The Israelites journeyed from Ramses to Succoth. There were about 600,000 men on foot, besides women and children. Many other people went up with them, as well as large droves of livestock, both flocks and herds. With the dough they had brought from Egypt, they baked cakes of unleavened bread. The dough was without yeast because they had been driven out of Egypt and did not have time to prepare food for themselves. Now the length of time the Israelite people lived in Egypt was 430 years. At the end of the 430 years, to the very day, all the Lord's divisions left Egypt, because the Lord kept vigil that night to bring them out of Egypt. On this night, all the Israelites are to keep vigil to honor the Lord for the generations to come. So you got Joseph all the way back in the end of Genesis, bringing his family and his people, his father Israel. And then God blessed Israel. God blessed the people, and they multiplied within Egypt. So much so that the Egyptians and the Pharaoh started despising the Hebrews because they were more numerous than they, and they were successful at everything. So that made them jealous. So they started punishing the Hebrews, punishing the Israelites to the point of slavery for no reason other than just jealousy. And now, after 430 years, of living in Egypt, the Israelites are finally free.